Have you ever asked yourself why, no matter how much you love, provide, or suffer, it's never enough? Why your deepest emotions feel dismissed or invisible to the very person you'd die for? The problem isn't that she doesn't see your suffering, it's that she was never meant to. In this video, we're going to strip away the illusion of romantic suffering and reveal the cold, brutal truth hiding beneath what we call love. In the silent chambers of existence, there is a force older than love, deeper than desire, and colder than understanding. It is the will, the blind, unconscious drive of life that courses through all beings. It does not care for happiness, justice, or compassion. It only wants to persist. It uses everything and everyone, especially those who mistake its cruelty for romance. And nowhere is this more clearly expressed than in the relationship between man and woman. The woman, by nature, is the direct expression of this will. Her body, her instincts, her very psychology is shaped not for love, but for life's continuity. She is the vessel through which life ensures its repetition. Her charm is not spiritual, but biological, an illusion designed by nature to draw the man into her orbit. The smile, the softness, the delicacy, all are masks worn by the will. Beneath them lies only function. The man, in contrast, imagines himself to be above this game. He dreams of love as a unity of souls, as the meeting of kindred spirits who understand, support, and elevate each other. But that vision is not shared by the will. It is only projected by him onto her, and it is this very projection that seals his fate. When a man falls in love, he does not fall for her body alone. He falls for the idea that she sees him, that she understands his suffering and feels it with him. He believes she is a refuge from the harshness of the world. But to the will, his suffering is incidental. It is merely a cost of reproduction. The sleepless nights he endures thinking of her, the anxieties, the sacrifices, the longing that gnaws at his mind. None of this matters to the will. Nature does not weep for the stag that dies fighting for the doe. It only ensures that the strongest gene survives. In the same way, the woman is drawn to strength, not suffering. She selects not the man who aches the most, but the one who fulfills nature's cold criteria: provision, protection, power. Men suffer because they seek meaning in love. They seek acknowledgement of their pain, recognition of their inner world, but the female instinct, shaped by the will, does not seek to merge with a man's soul. It seeks to secure the best conditions for life. She does not want to know what keeps him awake at night. She wants to know that he can protect her from the storm. He brings her gifts of the heart. She inspects them for utility. This is not malice. It is simply indifference. The greatest delusion a man carries is the belief that she will love him more the more he suffers for her. But nature does not reward suffering. Nature rewards results. A man who breaks himself to make her comfortable will find that comfort breeds contempt. She may say she wants vulnerability, but what she craves is stability. She may say she admires sacrifice, but what she respects is strength. The more he bleeds, the more invisible he becomes, not because she hates him, but because her attention is guided by a force deeper than morality: the will to life. There are moments when a man realizes this, and the realization burns. He sees that she has moved on without a thought, that his pain did not register. He begins to understand that his tears were never weighed, never evaluated, never even seen. Her instinct does not revolve around empathy for him. It revolves around survival for herself and her offspring. She is not cruel. She is simply aligned with a law more ancient than love: preservation. Even in the highest echelons of human culture, poetry, music, philosophy, the pattern repeats. The man who writes his soul into verses hopes she will read them and understand. But she rarely does. She may admire the beauty, appreciate the gesture, but she does not carry the burden he tried to express. His suffering is aesthetic to her, symbolic, not real. For her, the poem is lovely. For him, it is a cry. But the will does not decode cries. It only moves forward. Men speak of betrayal when they realize their suffering has no weight in her eyes. But it is not betrayal. It is misalignment. He believed in a shared emotional economy where his devotion would earn interest. But the exchange rate is one-sided. She does not see him in the way he longs to be seen. Not because she is flawed, but because her gaze is focused elsewhere, on outcomes, on safety, on life's continuation. To understand this is not to hate her, but to awaken from the dream. The will does not care for the poetry of pain. It only wants another child, another generation, another heartbeat. The man's suffering is, to the will, background noise, necessary perhaps, but never central. His torment may be profound, but it is irrelevant to the task she has been shaped to fulfill. What we call romantic love is not a spiritual union, not a moral bond, and certainly not the meeting of two autonomous wills. It is, rather, a cunning illusion cast by nature, a trick of the will to life, to ensnare man in a drama he believes is his own, but which, in truth, he was born only to perform. This illusion is seductive, poetic, even sublime. But at its core, it conceals something brutally indifferent, the continuation of the species at the expense of the individual. The man believes that he has found someone who completes him, someone who understands him, someone with whom he can finally be free. He imagines that love is an answer to the ache of existence, a balm for the loneliness that dogs his every step. He sees in her eyes a reflection of something higher, something transcendent. But this reflection is not of her soul, nor his own. It is the reflection of nature's purpose, dressed up in the costumes of intimacy and devotion. Love, as experienced by man, is not a truth. It is a theater. The ecstasy of romance blinds him to the mechanism operating beneath it. The longing he feels is not truly his own. It is the will speaking through him, using his consciousness as a stage upon which it performs its ancient script. The woman he desires is not an individual in the eyes of nature, but a gatekeeper of life's continuation. He is drawn to her not by choice, but by necessity. His desire, no matter how deep or poetic it feels, is not a noble pursuit. It is a biological imperative. Nature has designed this illusion with exquisite cruelty. She disguises reproductive urgency as emotional urgency. She paints the need to mate in the colors of eternity, speaks of forever while demanding only the next generation. The man, intoxicated by these illusions, sacrifices himself with pride. He writes poetry, composes music, fights wars, and gives his life for what he believes is love. In truth, he is only playing his part in a game where his individual fate is of no consequence. The will has no concern for happiness or harmony. It only requires the continuation of the chain. Thus, the deeper the man falls into love, the more he becomes entangled in the machinery of nature. He begins to ignore red flags, overlooks cruelty, and rationalizes betrayal. His rational mind is bypassed because the illusion is designed to overpower reason. The suffering he experiences when the illusion begins to crack is profound, not because he has lost something real, because he realizes that the meaning he projected it into the relationship was never mutual. For the woman, too, love is a form of submission to the will. She experiences it differently. Her selection is strategic. She is guided not by fantasy, but by instinctual calculus. What appears as passion is often preference. What looks like romance is often practicality. Her emotional investments are calibrated to secure safety, resources, and security for potential offspring. Love, for her, is a selection process. For him, it is an existential surrender. In this imbalance lies the seed of male suffering. Men suffer more deeply in love because they confuse function with essence. They believe the woman loves them for their soul, for their essence, for who they are in the metaphysical sense. But nature does not care for essence. It only values attribute as health, strength, resources, status. These are the currencies of attraction. When a man's inner world is overlooked, when his soul is dismissed, he feels betrayed. But the betrayal is not by the woman. It is by the illusion he once called love. This is the game. A man is made to believe that his deepest feelings are reciprocated, that his unique being is recognized and cherished. But what is truly being selected is not him, but what he offers. He becomes invisible behind his function. The love he thought sacred becomes transactional, and once his usefulness wanes, the illusion dissolves with it. The very woman who once seemed to worship him may now appear indifferent, even cold. This transformation wounds him not just emotionally, but existentially. He begins to see that the love he gave everything for was never about him. It was about life's agenda. Cruelty of this game is not in its intention, because the will has no intention. It is blind. It simply acts. The cruelty lies in the illusion itself, in the fact that man is wired to feel spiritual transcendence where there is only biological continuity. He is tricked into believing that love is personal, that it's about two individuals choosing each other against the world. But what has really chosen is something far older, far less sentimental, the impersonal will to life that uses individuals as tools, discards them when they are no longer useful, and moves on without a moment's pause. So he suffers. Not because he was rejected, but because he was used without knowing it. He suffers because he believed that the love he offered came from the highest part of himself, only to find that what was received was not that love, its utility. His pain is the residue of illusion collapsing. He was not chosen for his soul, for the temporary value he could provide to a force that does not care for souls. The romance was the veil. The game was always about survival. The human condition is split, not only between flesh and consciousness, but between two principles that have forever stood in contrast: spirit and nature. Man, in his highest form, is the embodiment of spirit, struggling upward, seeking truth, transcending the present moment, and forever alienated from the comfort of instinct. Woman, by contrast, is nature's perfect expression. She does not question her purpose, for she is embedded in it. She flows with time rather than fights it, aligns with life rather than reflects upon it. She is immediate, instinctual, and complete within the rhythm of life's cycle. Man is tortured by the question of why. Woman simply is. From youth, the boy begins to feel the weight of the world pressing into his chest. Not just the demands of society, but the burden of consciousness. He seeks to understand, to conquer illusion, to locate meaning beyond the veil of the everyday. He reaches for the eternal, sometimes through art, sometimes through suffering, sometimes through solitude. His dissatisfaction with the world is not weakness. It is his nature. He is the questioner, the observer, the rebel against the given order. Even his desire for a woman is not purely physical. It is symbolic. In her he sees completion, peace, a return to unity. He seeks in her a remedy to his fragmentation. But the woman does not seek in the same way. She does not yearn to transcend her condition because she is not alienated from it. She is at home in her being. Her body is in tune with the rhythms of the moon, her instincts with the survival of the tribe, her mind with the concerns of the immediate and the practical. She does not suffer the torment of metaphysics because her attention is directed toward life's continuity. Her choices are not abstract, they are rooted in biological realities that stretch back through generations. In this way, she becomes the vessel through which nature speaks and acts. Man, the spirit, tries to reach the infinite. But woman, as nature, is the infinite turned inward. She does not climb the ladder of ideals. She embodies the very force that makes the ladder irrelevant. While he meditates on the meaning of love, she calculates the consequences. While he writes poetry to express the depths of his soul, she evaluates whether that soul is capable of protecting, providing, enduring. His yearning for transcendence meets her desire for security. His dreams collide with her instincts. This difference is not accidental. It is elemental. Man's tragedy is that he thinks woman shares his longing. He believes that she, too, seeks the sublime, eternal, the invisible. But she does not. She may admire his passion, may even enjoy the expressions of his spirit, but she remains grounded. She is of the earth. Her concerns are the continuity of bloodlines, the protection of her children, the endurance of her home. When he weeps in philosophical agony, she grows uneasy, not out of cruelty, but because his tears are impractical. When he speaks of dying for love, she listens with suspicion. What she wants is not martyrdom, but stability. Because man is spirit, he overestimates the value of what cannot be seen. He believes that if he gives her his inner world, his loyalty, his authenticity, she will reciprocate with the same. But because she is nature, she does not operate within those currencies. She deals in reality, not idealism. She asks, can he protect me? Can he survive? Can he win? These are not shallow questions. They are her deepest truth. She is not interested in what he feels unless it translates into what he does. The spirit wants to be known, nature wants to be preserved. The deeper tragedy lies in the moment he realizes she cannot truly see him. She sees his form, his function, his capacity, but not his essence. Not because she is blind, but because nature has no use for essence. It requires only action, survival, and results. Her love is conditional not because she is manipulative, but because her very being is defined by selection. She is nature's filter, the gate through which life either continues or ends. And nature is merciless in its preferences. He continues to imagine that if he becomes more vulnerable, more poetic, more expressive, he will finally be seen, not for his utility, but for his soul. But this is not how nature loves. She loves according to her law, and her law does not recognize spirit as valuable unless it supports life. Thus, his spiritual offerings go unrecognized. She may admire them, even be moved by them, but they do not anchor her devotion. That devotion is reserved for the man who demonstrates strength, not necessarily the one who understands life, but the one who survives it. This is the fundamental asymmetry. He wants to merge spiritually, she wants to secure biologically. He climbs toward the heavens with his love, she plants hers in the ground. He aches for eternity, she plans for tomorrow. He offers his soul, she measures his spine. The man wants to be chosen for what he is. The woman must choose based on what he does. And so he suffers, believing that love is about recognition of being, when in truth, nature loves only through the lens of necessity. Civilization, with all its elegance, law, and progress, is built not on peace, but on the silent and invisible suffering of men. Beneath the bridges, the towers, the symphonies, and the philosophies, there is a weight that few acknowledge, the burden placed upon the masculine spirit. While society celebrates its refinements, it forgets the brutal truths that uphold them. Every book that teaches wisdom, every structure that offers safety, every system that brings order, behind them stands a man who has sacrificed his inner peace for the continuation of something greater than himself. He suffers not because he is weak, but because he is made to carry what others do not see. The male burden begins with expectation, and it never ends. From the moment he is born, the world does not ask if he is content, it only asks if he is useful. He is judged not for his being, but for his output. What can he provide? How strong is he? How much can he endure before he breaks? And when he breaks, how quickly can he return to his post? The emotional world of a man is treated as a luxury, a distraction, a liability. His pain is not sacred. It is inconvenient. His worth is bound to his capacity to perform, to build, to protect, to win. Nature, too, imposes this role upon him without compassion. He must compete to be chosen. He must risk humiliation to gain recognition. He must endure rejection, ridicule, and defeat while pretending to be unaffected. For even a moment of visible weakness may cost him respect. And respect, in the masculine realm, is life itself. Unlike the woman, whose value is often recognized simply in her being, the man must construct his value from the ground up. He is not loved unconditionally. He is not desired simply for existing. He is desired for what he can overcome. In this dynamic lies the unspoken tragedy of the masculine soul. He is asked to be strong, but never asked how much it costs him. He is told to be silent, but never asked what screams in him when the silence is forced. He is required to kill parts of himself that are too soft, too sensitive, too poetic. And in this suppression, civilization is made possible. The wars are fought not by philosophers, but by men who suppress fear. The roads are built not by dreamers, but by hands that ache. The security of families, communities, and nations rests upon the shoulders of men who are taught that their suffering is unimportant, that their sadness is shameful, that their needs must always come last. Even in love, he is not granted refuge. The romantic ideal promises him solace, understanding, and connection. But often, love becomes another arena in which he is required to prove himself. If he falters, he is no longer loved. If he loses status, he becomes invisible. If he fails to provide, he becomes a burden. The woman who once adored him no longer sees him, not because she is cruel, but because nature designed her to follow strength. Her attraction is not a choice. It is an instinct. He, on the other hand, loves with his whole being. He attaches meaning to his sacrifices, to his endurance, to the pain he hides. And when that love is withdrawn, it is not just the relationship that dies in him. It is the idea that someone might have seen him beyond his function. Modern culture is quick to accuse him of being cold, distant, emotionally unavailable. But what it fails to recognize is that these traits are not flaws. They are scars. He has been taught that expressing his soul is dangerous, that to be open is to be vulnerable, and vulnerability is punished. The world teaches him that no one is coming to save him, and so he must armor himself in silence. He smiles while drowning, works while exhausted, protects while wounded. The world benefits from his silence, despises the rage that grows from it, and when that rage erupts, He is shamed, blamed, and exiled. The spiritual suffering of man is further compounded by his desire for transcendence. Unlike the woman, who is often rooted in the continuity of life, the man seeks to create meaning beyond it. He writes, paints, builds temples and philosophies not merely for survival, to escape the emptiness that gnaws at him. His suffering becomes a crucible for higher thought. But the irony is cruel. While his pain births beauty, he is rarely comforted by what he creates. The world may praise his work, yet ignore his wounds. He is used as a symbol, but rarely understood as a soul. Every generation demands more from its men. Provide, protect, perform, but do not ask for anything in return. The moment a man pauses to question his suffering, he is told he is weak, that he lacks resilience, and so he returns to silence. He builds again, he fights again, he bleeds again. Not for glory, but because he believes that someone must bear the weight, and he has accepted that it will be him. He does not speak of his suffering, not because it is small, because he knows no one wants to hear it. And in this loneliness, he becomes the invisible architect of all that is stable. His pain is not written into history books, but it is carved into the foundations of every city, every law, every peace treaty. And so, the suffering of man, silent, relentless, invisible, is not a flaw in the system, but the very foundation upon which the system stands. His torment is not an accident of culture or a defect of character, but the necessary price of order, of civilization, of love that can never be unconditional. The masculine soul walks through life misunderstood, not because it is unknowable, but because the world has no incentive to understand it. He gives his strength, his vision, his sacrifice, not in the hope of reward, but because he is bound to a role carved into him by nature and expectation alike. Woman, as the voice of nature, does not intend to cause him suffering. In her instinctive selection, in her merciless alignment with what survives, she becomes the mirror that reflects what man must become to be loved. And that mirror does not recognize his soul, only his capacity. It is not personal. It is biological. And therein lies the most painful truth, that what man offers in spirit is rarely what the world desires, what he craves. To be seen, to be understood, to be loved for his essence, is precisely what he is denied. This is not a call for resentment, nor an indictment of the feminine. It is a reckoning with reality. If man is to find peace, it will not be in waiting for the world to acknowledge his suffering. It will be in embracing the tragic nobility of his role and finding meaning in the very silence that has always defined his strength. He must know the world does not love him for who he is, but if he can withstand that truth without collapsing, he becomes something far greater than loved. He becomes unbreakable.